Well, good morning, team. I am looking at 11:01. If the reapportionment committee, the committee advisors could show their faces, that would be amazing. Show the video if possible. Hi, Jen. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And I'm assuming the Elections Commission office is going to be on here as well. But if we can call the meeting to order and take a roll call to make sure that we have majority, we can have a meeting. Hi, Lisa. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Hi, Ginger. Can you guys unmute yourselves so we can do a roll call to see? I see Jen's here. I see Ginger. Not sure, is Alan here? Alan's here.
Here.
Hi, guys. Hey, Alan.
Hello.
Let's see, who else are we looking for? Well, we have 3 out of 4, so that's great.
I'm here.
Oh, Lynn, there you are. Hi, Lynn. Sorry. Okay, so I guess I'm calling the meeting to order, and then what we need to do is we've got roll call, so we have majority. Everybody's here. Thank you guys so much for coming. And then I'm going to ask if you guys have decided on a new chair with Mike Rompel's departure. And as soon as you guys vote on that, I'm going to peace out and be quiet and have you guys take over your meeting. So have y'all decided on who you'd like the new chair to be?
Doesn't matter.
Lynn, did you want to take that on?
It doesn't matter to me either.
Neither do I. Doesn't matter.
Well, I don't know, Junk and Poe, I don't know what you guys want to do.
Who wants to volunteer?
Not I.
Okay, tag Lynn, I say tag you're it, because it was
All
between
right.
you and Mike last time, so I feel like you're vice president, now you're president. No, but,
Is that how it works?
or
Okay.
governor, I don't know, could be
Yeah,
governor.
I don't know how it works there, but
Yeah,
all right.
so if you guys want to like vote, that would be great. So someone needs to make a motion to allow for Lynn to be the chair of the Oahu Advisory Commission, and then you guys can vote. So will one of you make that motion? Okay, Ginger, how about you make the motion?
I'll make the motion for Lynn to be the new chair.
Great, and a second?
I'll second.
Great. Okay, and then all in favor?
Aye.
All for it. Woohoo. Okay, Lynn Finnegan is now the new Advisory Council's chair, and I'm going to now back out and allow Lynn to take over.
Aloha and good morning. Looks like on the agenda, we determined quorum, we did advisory council chair, and now we're going to go into public testimony. If I have the right list, we have, hold on a second, let me just pull it up. First on the agenda list is for testifying is Bill Hicks, according to the list.
Okay,
Hi, Bill, are you ready to testify?
Aloha, Chair, newly elected
Aloha.
Chair. I'm Bill Hicks, Chairman of the Kailua Neighborhood Ward. Yesterday, the Reapportionment Commission's Technical Committee introduced new House and Senate maps for Oahu. The Senate map does not utilize Makapu'u Point as a natural boundary between East Honolulu and Windward Oahu. This is unlike the House map, the Congressional map, and the City Council map, which all use Makapu'u Point. The Oahu Advisory Council has already recommended to the Reapportionment Commission that, quote, Oahu maps be drawn in accordance with Article 6 in its entirety, which will establish Kaina Point and Makapu'u Point as natural boundaries for both House and Senate districts, unquote. The Constitution and the Hawaii Revised Statutes both say district lines shall follow permanent and easily recognized features such as streets, streams, and clear geographical features. This error in the Senate map should be corrected, especially as the Technical Committee previously used it this year as a, quote, precedent, unquote, to argue for making the same mistake on the House side with House District 51. The Hawaii Constitution, Article 4, Section 6 says, quote, where practicable, representative districts shall be wholly included within senatorial districts, unquote. Evidence suggests that the Reapportionment Commission's Technical Committee has not paid much attention to this constitutional criteria. In fact, there is no example anywhere in the state where any Senate district was constructed by joining two House districts together, even though we've got 34 and 17 on Oahu, 3 and 6 on Maui, and 4 and 8 on the Big Island. The outcome of the Technical Committee's approach on Oahu is there are 3 Senate districts, 10, 15, and 18, that cross the boundaries of 6 different House districts. And there are 2 House districts, 28 and 39, that cross the boundaries of 4 different Senate districts. Imagine a senator having to coordinate with 6 different representatives, or a representative having to coordinate with 4 different senators to properly represent their district. I built Oahu House and Senate maps that comply with all constitutional and HRS criteria. I use 2 House districts to form each Senate district. It can be done. In fact, it can be done with a smaller population deviation than the Technical Committee's proposal too. Let me say it again, with 34 and 17 Senate districts, if the House districts were carefully crafted, then just join 2 House districts to form each Senate district. Take the 34 districts the Technical Committee has come up with and create the Senate districts that way. My plans, which were developed before the Technical Committee's maps were published or submitted for your review. I believe Reapportionment Commission Chair Mugiishi might even agree with me on this from his previous comments made on December 22nd. The context was House District 51, but it is universally applicable. He said, quote, "If you have a district that has synergy between the representative getting elected by the same constituency as the senator, you have a much better chance of affecting meaningful change for your community." And so I'm trying to understand why people would object to aligning their Senate map and their House map. I would think that would be a wonderful thing to do, unquote. The Oahu Advisory Council, established by the Constitution, represents the citizens of Oahu as our voice to the Reapportionment Commission. I request that the Oahu Advisory Council adopt these recommendations and forward them to the Reapportionment Commission. Mahalo.
Thank you, Bill. Next on the list is Lisa Bishop. Are you available to testify?
I am, Chair Finnegan. I am Lisa Bishop, and Aloha Reapportionment Commission, Oahu Advisory Council. I'm a resident of Oahu, and mahalo for the opportunity to testify today. I'm very grateful that the Technical Committee chose to reinstate Makapu Point as a natural geographic boundary between House District 51 and House District 18 that used to be the House District 17, as they redrew maps with the revised final extraction numbers. However, as Bill just testified, the new Senate plan does not recognize Makapu Point as a natural geographic boundary and does not align entire House districts into Senate districts. This error was made 20 years ago, and this is now an opportune time to fix it, especially with the higher extraction numbers that have completely shuffled all of the House districts on Oahu. I think now is a prime time to step in and fix this mistake. With 17 Senate and 34 House districts, it is feasible to make the House districts the best they can be, and then simply combine 2 House districts to form each Senate district. You also hear the same argument from representatives from the other islands who have even numbered House districts and Senate districts. We heard that testimony yesterday. Why are we dividing up House districts into several senatorial areas when you have an even number of House districts and Senate districts that can be combined? The Constitution calls for representative districts to be wholly included within one Senate district if practicable. In the current redistricting draft, only 9 House districts are wholly inside one Senate district. Some crossover up to 4 Senate districts. Please review the Oahu House and Senate Hicks plans that demonstrate that every constitutional and Hawaii revised statute criteria is indeed practicable. Using those plans as an example, I urge you to speak up for Oahu and strongly recommend the Technical Committee apply the state constitutional mandates to the Oahu Senate districts. Decisions are made by those who show up. I therefore request that the Oahu Advisory Council be present and represent Oahu residents at all of the upcoming Reapportionment Commission hearings, and the schedule was just released. This process is not about ensuring political incumbents retain their seats. This is about abiding by our state constitution to ensure what is best for our residents and our communities. And I hope to hear, as a result of this meeting today, a commitment from the Oahu Advisory Council to represent us going forward at the last remaining Reapportionment Commission hearings. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify, and I'm ready to answer questions if you need.
Mahalo, Lisa. Robin or staff, is there do we take questions after the testimony is finished? All testimony is finished? Just checking, do we, I'm sorry, Robin, did you say
I'm so
something?
sorry. I keep muting and unmuting myself. What the heck? I think this is your meeting, so I believe you can manage it however you see fit.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Let's go. We have Vanessa Distajo.
Aloha.
Hi, Vanessa. Aloha.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Distajo. I'm the Vice President of Manoa Outdoor Circle and also the VP of Malama Manoa. Both organizations did submit testimony multiple rounds throughout the Reapportionment Commission hearing phase and meetings. But today I'm here on my individual capacity as a 6th generation Manoa resident. I submitted testimony yesterday. I chose not to give oral testimony because I've seen my face many times before. And also I knew I would have the opportunity today to speak to you. I was very grateful for the technical committee realigning Manoa Valley and keeping it intact and compact. And I was happy to see that they had addressed the concerns of our friends and neighbors in Kailua, Waimanalo, and Hawaii Kai. I was disappointed to see, though, that they had inadvertently affected another Hawaiian community of Papakolea. So I hope that they can take another look at that area above Makiki Heights. I was very happy to see in the meeting yesterday that Commissioner Kennedy asked pointed questions to the technical committee about their reasoning as to why the House and Senate maps did not align better and follow our state constitution. I was sad to hear the errors and flaws in their reasoning, though. One commissioner used hearsay in her explanation, saying that she had conferred with her state senator. And I don't think that a state senator's opinion should ever trump our constitution. Another commissioner said that it had been done that way for decades, but I think that this is an opportunity to rectify and address any wrongdoing and not perpetuate something that is not right. So please do the Pono thing and support the people of Oahu as we bring our concerns to you today. And maybe you could even ask them to put their egos and pride aside in this process and do the magnanimous thing and accept the alternative plans presented by Kailua Neighborhood Board Chair Bill Hicks, who's put a lot of time and effort into working with the community and 11 different neighborhood boards. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time and service.
Mahalo, Vanessa. I see hands raised. I think we'll take the testimony in the order of the hands that are raised. And I see Sandy Ma. Thank you, Sandy. Go ahead and begin.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and members of the Oahu Advisory Council. My name is Sandy Ma, and I'm with Common Cause Hawaii. We did not submit written testimony to this advisory council. We would just like to point out, just like the prior testifier, that we did notice that there were problems with the splitting of Papakolea, the community with Papakolea. It has been split with this most recent iteration of the technical committee's maps between House districts, proposed House districts 26 and 27. And we hope that community is combined again. This is a community of interest of significant importance for the Native Hawaiian population. And we just want to note that if you could make that recommendation, we would sincerely appreciate that. as this is a Native Hawaiian community that could have its voice impacted going forward for the next 10 years. We did put that in our written testimony to the entire Reapportionment Commission, but if this advisory council can also make that request to recombine this community. Thank you very much, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Aloha, Sandy. Let's go with Gordon next.
Hello, I'm Gordon Aohiagi, a resident of Manoa, and I submitted testimony for yesterday's meeting. And I did not do it for this, but thinking that I would just observe. But I have a very strong feeling about what is happening with reapportionment. And I thank the committee for its resolution on December 17th. And I think it had some impact on the commission's recently revised plan. They did address Manoa, but and they did address Waimanalo and Hawaii Kai, but they didn't address other concerns of the community. And I also think that the rule of law must apply as they proceed forward. I commend to you and appreciate all the work that Bill Hicks has done to be responsive not only to community concerns, but also to give us the framework and to constantly remind us of what the provisions of the state constitution. The Hicks plan reflects a 2.5 deviation in House districts, and the TC proposed plan shows a 4.2 deviation. For the Senate, the revised Hicks plan shows a 1.96 deviation, while the proposed plan, a TC plan, shows a 4.93 deviation. Further, the Hicks revised plan is consistent with and demonstrates that all the provisions in the state constitution for reapportionment are practicable, including containing House districts wholly within Senate districts and both House and Senate districts wholly within congressional districts. Moreover, and I think this is very important, the proposed districts are totally unbiased and do not give any undue advantage to a person or a party, a key provision also in the Constitution. I raise this because of the discussion yesterday from some of the commissions who seemed to imply that they could use the term of when practicable as a term of convenience to serve their own and the incumbency's desires. One commissioner went so far as to say the incumbents prefer it this way. It seems to me that Bill and many of the other providers have indicated that compliance with the Constitution is fully practicable. So when I hear from a commissioner that they want to use the term when practical means I can do what I want because I don't like the outcome, doesn't that mean without explanation that is arbitrary and maybe even border on capricious? Clearly, with the fact that many of the community's plans have indicated that they can be fully compliant and demonstrate that all terms of the Constitution are practicable, when they move away from those provisions, shouldn't the commission be required to provide strong, compelling rationale as to why it is not impractical, why it is in their terms impractical, and they need to justify what they're doing? Thank you very much for your consideration. I appreciate all the time and dedication. And I tell you, I'm so pleased to see the community response to the whole reapportionment issue. It gives me more faith that democracy now will prevail. Thank you, particularly here in Hawaii. Thank you.
Aloha, Gordon. How do you spell your last name? Aliaga?
Aoyagi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roberta, you're up next.
Good morning, Chair Finnegan and Advisory Council members. My name is Roberta Mayer. I'm president of the Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board, and I've testified at numerous commission hearings and meetings. I would just like to echo the testimonies presented earlier this morning. I'm pleased that the technical group has reestablished Makapu'u Point as the boundary line between the House districts, but I'm very disappointed that they did not take it far enough to use Makapu'u Point as the boundary line for the Senate districts as well. I understand that there's a timeline crunch, but I'm afraid if this is not taken care of at this reapportionment cycle, that it'll be forgotten in the next 10 years and will no longer be a primary issue. I hope that the advisory council will stick by its earlier recommendation to the commission to use both Makapu'u Point and Ka'ena Point as fixed boundaries for the Oahu districts in both the House and Senate. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say. I hope that the commission will listen to the recommendations of the advisory council.
Aloha, Roberta. Are there any other testifiers? Just going to give you a few more seconds to unmute. Okay, it seems that we do not have any other testifiers. Can we move on? Oh, sorry, commissioners, do you have any questions for any of the testifiers? Okay, seeing that there are no questions, we will move on to the next agenda item. The next agenda item, number 5, approval of minutes for the December 17th, 2021 meeting. Commissioners, do you have any feedback or corrections?
Sorry, Chair. I wasn't present at the last meeting, so I need to defer on that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you need a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Oh, that's right.
I thought
Sorry.
motion to approve the minutes for the last meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Sorry. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Ginger, was that a aye?
Aye, yes.
Thank you. All opposed, say nay. Abstain. Vote.
I guess I would abstain because I wasn't there. Thank you.
Gotcha. Thank you, Alan. The minutes have been approved. Okay. Next on the agenda, item number 6, review and discussion of the permanent resident base adopted by the Reapportionment Commission on January 6, 2022. I might need some staff help here. Is there a presentation of sorts or anything like that, or for this particular item?
David Rosenbrock is here, so I believe he would be the one to share that, or Royce. David, are you there? There he comes.
Yes, I'm here.
So is that, yeah.
Specifically,
ahead,
what
Robin.
was the question? Could you repeat the
sorry?
question?
No, this particular item on the agenda, review and discussion, just wanting to see if there was someone from staff that could give us a summary or review. I mean, I'm kind of familiar with it, but for the commissioners and the audience, I don't know if we want
Maybe, how about Lynn, can you read the whole agenda item for him? He's not maybe looking at it.
Okay, the agenda item number 6 is review and discussion on the permanent resident base adopted by the Reapportionment Commission on January 6th, 2022.
Yes, I can share with you about that. The Hawaii Constitution requires that we remove non-permanent residents from the total population we get from the Census Bureau. So I think back in August, we had gotten numbers from the military and the universities. And we made an extraction of those non-permanent residents based on, for the students, if you pay out-of-state tuition, you're a non-permanent resident. And if you're in the military, stationed in Hawaii, but don't pay taxes in Hawaii, then we extract you and your dependents. And so we did that. It was brought to our attention that the number was quite low compared to last reapportionment. We continued to prod the military to get us numbers all the way up until, well, we got the final numbers on December 31st, which gave us a new population base. The staff brought the population base to the commission and they adopted it on January 6th.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Rosenbrock?
No, actually, I have a question, David. I missed that Senate meeting. I'm not sure why, but I'm wondering, is that going to affect any of what we're doing? That whole
Point of order,
Senate
Madam
hearing
Chair.
Point of order.
I think the Commissioner Kennedy needs your permission to speak in your meeting.
She just asked if anybody had any questions.
And I think she was asking the other 3 Oahu Advisory Committee members.
Okay.
Who's our support staff here? Because I'm not sure. I think we can recognize.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like
I guess
to,
I can ask permission to speak. Lynn, can I speak?
Yes.
I just asked a question.
Go ahead. Okay. You know what? Can we take Ms. Kennedy? Can we take Commissioner Kennedy's?
I just have actually a question. Can Brett identify who he is? And I'm actually not sure who Brett is.
Oh, okay. Hello, Mr. Colbis. Could you identify yourself?
Yes, my name is Brett Colbus. I'm a resident of Eva Beach.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Wilbur. I'm gonna go back to Commissioner Kennedy. You are recognized.
Thank you. Yes, David, I just had a question about the Senate hearing meetings. How's that going to affect what you guys are doing moving forward? I mean, if they actually receive new numbers in time, I mean, do you have any, I have no real understanding of what's going on with that.
Well, the meeting that was held on Monday was a briefing. So it wasn't an action taking process. It was information gathering process. But, you know, the military has been still trying to get us a set of numbers that's perfect. And they're doing the best they can, but we're running out of time. So we've got it down to as close as we can get it. I think their next report might identify a small data set of folks in Hawaii that pay taxes in Hawaii who are active duty. But I don't expect it to be a great number, but she's been working on getting that for us. Well, we expected it yesterday, but it's.
Yeah, how that goes.
I just got a note from her, why I wasn't paying attention, was her suggestion to call the state tax records. And so I'm looking into seeing the value of that particular information. But right now, this is as good as we got. A little bit over a tenth of the population of Oahu being extracted.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, if there are no further questions from the commission members, Really quick, can someone help advise me in regards to, is this a commission question period, or can I recognize anybody from the audience?
You can
I'm not
recognize
familiar.
anyone you like.
All right, thank you. I have two people on the with raised hands, Lisa and then Lisa Bishop and then Brett Colbis. Go ahead, Lisa. Lisa, you're on mute.
Unmute, thank you. David, I was puzzled by watching that Senate briefing on Monday. And because I don't really fully understand a lot about the census, but Senator Dela Cruz seemed to be fixated on the fact that no one could verify whether or not every member of the military stationed in Hawaii had filled out the US Census, correct?
Correct.
But we don't know if every resident of Hawaii filled out the census either, right?
That's correct.
Okay, I was just puzzled about that whole interaction. So thank you for answering that question for me. Thank you,
Yeah, I
Chair.
was puzzled by it also.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Next is Brett Colbis. Mr. Colbis, go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair. David, you use the whether or not they pay taxes in Hawaii as your, I guess, key point to whether or not you extract them. The census doesn't care where people pay taxes. They just take a, time and point count. And at the Senate committee, at least my understanding is the census workers were allowed to get on the military bases to talk to the residents. I guess my question would be why is the tax payment the only way you would be able to identify anybody as opposed to their residential address? I don't know if you get data from the post office, probably not, but I just think that's not a good way. And hopefully, based on what I've heard from the Senate hearing, that the DMDC, who helped with the current numbers, where it was identified that instead of asking where the military member is stationed, we are asking where the military member's mailing address is. So can you just clarify that? Because, most people, the census is about population as it regards to distribution of federal funds. I realize that our Constitution says the non-permanent residents have to be withdrawn, and I'm hoping there'll be a constitutional amendment this legislative session to just take that out. So we just use just the census numbers, especially now that we know that the census takers can get on the bases to the military housing, wherever that may be. Mahalo.
Well, I will say this, Brett. We asked the military not for the tax records of Hawaii. All we asked for, if their record had been flagged as paying taxes in another state. That could be the closest criteria we could for determining somebody as a non-permanent resident, because they're paying taxes and assume that they will go back there someday. In the first, 2001 and 2011, the query that was asked of the military was active duty sponsors with dependents who paid taxes in another state for their address here in Hawaii. Right now, they wouldn't give us that. So the next best thing they gave us was zip +5, zip +4, and just regular zip. Now, the query that they provided on the 31st was asked in reverse order, making no mention of taxes at all. It was dependents who had an address here and all of them and whatever sponsors there were. There's no correlation between the sponsor file and the dependent file other than the zip code +5, zip code +4, or the regular zip code.
Well, David, thank you very much. And I pray that you will be here in 10 years when we do this again, but I hope you put a note up for whoever your predecessors are, should you retire by then, to make sure we get the right query the first time from the military, and we don't have to go through this again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kobus. Let's go with Mr. Hicks.
Mahalo, Chair. 2 points. The first is with what the military data is. Under the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Act of 1952, a service member does not have to adopt residence. Actually, the term is legal domicile in a new state when they are transferred. If the only reason they're moving from one state to another is because the military sent them there, they don't have to update their legal domicile. And I think legal domicile is what the military records contain. It starts as your home of entry into the service, and it stays that forever unless the service member subsequently updates it to a place where they are currently stationed and living. Many update it to Florida or New Hampshire because there are no income taxes. But that starts with where you enter the service, and it only changes when a service member updates it with the current address that they want to claim as their new legal domicile. That's tied with taxes because whatever is on file for the legal domicile is what the military payroll system pulls out for state income taxes. So that's how they're connected. So the data ought to be the same. If you talk, do they pay taxes or what the legal domicile is, the answer ought to be the same. But technically it's declared legal domicile of the service member. Second point, David, you can help me on this. During one of the hearings, as you pointed out, the 99,000 number that you received from the military, there was also at one point discussed a number of 100,000, about 1,000 different. And I think I made the connection that the 100,000 was derived or implied somehow from the census. And so it gave confidence that the 99,000 number was a good number, but I might not have heard that correctly. Can you elaborate, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
The 99,000 number was, I think, DMDC was looking at another run where there might be folks in that dependent list who are residents of Hawaii. So that's the only caveat to why they're running a new report. When we are taking the population out, we take the total number of the census count and we subtract out the non-permanent residents in each basic island unit. So that's how we came up with our 99,000 number. We got up to 107,000 because we had students, right? So if you add the 7,500 something students to the 99,000, you get what we finally extracted was 107. There is no correlation between the census and the information at DMDC. It's apples and oranges. Now we're asked to make fruit salad out of apples and oranges, and that's what we did. I mean, it's very imperfect. We, when it got down to after the apportionment number was taken out, then we have to go back and put those folks in the locations that they were taken out of. Otherwise, the districts would be all convoluted. So when we got to it's fairly complicated. Zip plus 5 gets you almost right to a census block. Zip plus 4 gets you in the next row of houses in that census block or the next census block. Then we go out to the base area, housing in the base area. And then whatever we have left, we have to go look for close to the installation. There were several times that we ran into a situation where we had to extract more from a census population than the census block had in it. So consequently, we moved over to the next block. I think Royce likes to use the term, if you're looking for your cat, if your cat's not home, where do you look? You look next door, you look down the street, you look in the neighborhood, then you look all over. And that's basically what we had to do when we were extracting the number for the postal zones that we had. Are we good?
Yeah, if I could just add one quick point on that, I'm good with the response. Thank you very much, David. Chair, if I could add about a sentence to that.
Sure.
Yeah, I was puzzled also by extracting more than what the census counted, but it all made sense to me when David and Royce explained that what the military data provided was mailing addresses, and they did some detective work and they found a census tract that had at Schofield that had 3,000 military in it, but the census count was only 300. And the reason is because there's a post office in that tract, 300 residents and a post office. And there were 3,000 military who had post office boxes there. And so you could say, well, gee, there are only 300 people. How can we extract 3,000 people? Well, those other 2,700 people were in the surrounding blocks, and that made perfect sense to me. And I really appreciated that detective work. Mahalo, David.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hicks. I don't see any raised hands, so we're going to go to the next agenda item, which is agenda item number 7, review and discussion of the modified proposed final congressional and legislative plans based on the January 6, 2022 permanent resident base developed by the Reapportionment Commission's Technical Committee. Okay, is this, if someone can help me with this, is there an overview of sorts that can help the commissioners get up to speed, or I think I'm somewhat up to speed from what I saw and read, but is there anyone that can give an overview? Maybe staff? I'm not sure if staff's on. I am so sorry. I don't know who the staff is on the call, on the Zoom.
Yeah, I think David's the only one. Looks like Lori's here too, but David would be the one to do that too, I think.
Okay, okay. Mr. Rosenbrock, would you be okay with just giving us a summary of the overview on what happened with that?
Well, I moved the lines where I'm told to move the lines. So I can't give you any more in-depth analysis, right? Because there's 4 of them and Royce and I take care of moving the maps, looking at the deviations, looking at crossing boundaries that can't be crossed, those kinds of things. So the staff involvement in the decision-making is really pretty tiny.
Okay, okay. So the summary would be lines were moved.
Yeah, lines, I mean, I will say this, after taking 107,000 out of the population of Oahu, a seat moved from Oahu to Big Island. So, you know, adding seats, taking out seats does a lot to the configurations, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, I think they had their reasons, and I'm sure they thought those reasons were valid. And like I said, I can only advise them. And that's it. They need to be able to speak truth to power, not me.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any other questions? I see a hand from Vanessa. So I'll go to her first before the commission. Well, you know what? Let me go to the commissioners first, Vanessa. Okay, commissioners, do you have any other questions for Mr. Rosenbrock? Okay. Mr. Rosenbrock, I do have a question for you. Or not actually not Mr. Rosenbrock. I have a question for Mr. Hicks. I was taking a look at your house draft. And you know, I don't know all of the intricacies, the differences, you know, where the lines actually fall from looking at it, only because I'm not that familiar with all the places on the island. But can you tell me which neighborhood boards didn't feed back to your map, your current map? Oh, you're on mute.
I sent it out to all neighborhood board chairs asking that they take a critical look and let me know if they saw issues with how those maps aligned in their particular neighborhoods. And I did not receive much feedback. I did receive one feedback that resulted in moving 2 census tracts to align a school with where the kids live. And I made that change before I submitted it to the Reapportionment Commission. So that change is already incorporated in what you have. If I could go on for just a moment about the methodology and flaws in my methodology, I could share that.
Okay, just really quick, I had a specific question for you because I'm looking at what I think I see here, and one of the areas that I'm more familiar with is in my area, more especially because, you know, I was a former representative of the area.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm looking at my area, and this is how it was before, but it would have been nice to kind of have correction to my area. And I think, well, I'm trying to find the actual map that I was just looking at.
Yeah, if you're looking at my map, just tell me the House district. I've got it called up on the commission's.
I'm so sorry. I have all of these. I have all of these open testimonies and everything, and I did it all electronically, so I'm a little behind the game here. But I think it's the map. It's the district that has Pearl Harbor, Hickam. It does a wrap from, which it did before, which is, you know, it goes into like IAEA, into and it wraps around to the military bases and goes into Kalihi. And I kind of, you know, see that continues from the last reapportionment, trying to figure out if there's, you know, an issue with that neighborhood, you know, seeing that kind of difference, you know, in neighborhoods, and if that particular neighborhood board got back to you in wanting to improve that.
That neighborhood board did not. My logic in doing that, because I don't like wraparounds, I've testified against wraparounds. But in this case, a wraparound that combines Camp Smith, Schofield Barracks, Pearl Harbor, and Hickam in the military resident housing is a similar socioeconomic area. And the area that is inside that wraparound is Salt Lake, which is more well, there's military in there, but it's not as directly military. The Reapportionment Commission's technical committee took a different approach with that area. And what they did was made their House District 30 Hickam on over towards Sand Island, and then 31 was Pearl Harbor, and then 32 was Salt Lake stretching into Aiea. So I had kind of a wraparound that put the military together. The technical committee has kind of done it in horizontal layers. I don't argue with either way. What I did was I built the House districts as equal as population as possible, starting at Kaina Point, starting at Makapu'u Point, and working around. And then for the Senate side, I took 2 House districts and made them, you do the best possible job on a House district because it's the smallest district and you can do the most granularity. And if you did a good job on the House districts, then you just take 2 House districts to form a Senate district. And that way you comply with the constitutional requirement that House districts shall lay fully within a Senate district. And you only have a senator coordinating with 2 representatives, not up to 6. And but I could certainly take the technical committee's drawing of the 34 House districts as is. And I wouldn't quibble with it, and I wouldn't have huge issue with it at all. What I would do next is I would take the 34 House districts of the technical committee and pair them to make Senate districts. Obviously, 51 and 50 become District 25, and obviously 18 and 19 become Senate District 9. And obviously, the 2 North Shore become a district, and obviously the 2 Waianae Coast become a district. And then how you pair up the others, there are options, but then the idea would be try to keep, no matter how you constructed them, they would be as compact as you can, because that's what you did in making the House district, and as population equal as you can, because that's what you did in making the House district. But you'd want to join socioeconomic similarities in the 2 adjacent House districts to make that Senate district. But that way, every House district is fully contained, and you don't have this coordination issue of a senator working with 6 different representatives.
Sure.
And it takes out the baked in, the political jiggling that was baked in 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and 30 years ago, and is still baked into it. On the Senate side, this is a fresh opportunity to write that. The only thing I would do differently, and I constructed it also respecting the congressional district boundaries, because that's a requirement in HRS. There were 2 districts that I really didn't like, and that was District 43 and 46, because they split Royal Kunia and attached Royal Kunia, about 7,000 each, into far-flung districts. And I had to do that because I was constrained, because I wanted to meet all the criteria by the congressional district lines. You got 45 and 44, starting in Makaha, working down, constrained by the Waianae Mountains. You've got 42 constrained by the west end of Congressional District 1. That doesn't leave maneuvering room for 43. And there's the same thing with 46. It wrapped around the congressional district line and had to grab the other half of Royal Kunia. So people said the constitutional requirement is a recipe. And what I learned following every criteria is it's not a recipe, it's the ingredients. To make the ingredients a recipe, you have to know the order to do things. And I would submit that doing the congressional district first, like they did this year, puts constraints on those House districts, and it should be the other way around. The House districts, being the smallest districts with the most granularity, they should be constructed first, and then the Senate. And then the final thing would be construct the congressional district, where this year the number is almost exact on Oahu. You have 25 House districts is urban congressional district 1, and 9 Oahu House districts are the rural districts, are the Oahu component of congressional district 2. Make that the last thing. Take your carefully crafted House districts and put, I would say, obviously start at Makapu'u Point and work through the urban core to assemble 25 House districts, and poof, that's congressional district 1. And then the other 9 districts are congressional district 2. So to make it a recipe, rather than just ingredients, a recipe, the order should be House districts, then Senate districts, and then the last thing, not the first thing, the congressional district. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I did call on Vanessa, and then I see Vanessa, I'm so sorry. I don't know your last name. Oh, wait.
Oh, my
I
last-
do. Vistajo.
Vistajo,
Sorry.
correct. Thank
Sorry
you.
about that.
I
So,
would
Ms.
like to ask, thank you.
Sure.
I would like to ask a question that I haven't heard any of the commissioners or Oahu Advisory Council members ask yet. And my question would be directed at David Rosenbrock, because he's our state's respective senior supreme reapportionment expert. Mr. Rosenbrock, I'm wondering if you have had a chance to review Bill Hicks's alternative plans for Oahu for both the House and Senate districts, and if you think, in your opinion, that it is viable and satisfies all sections of Article 4 of our state constitution. Please, thank you.
Yeah, we got to view, Bill Hicks wasn't the only guy to submit plans. There were plans on the Big Island. There were 6 separate plans for Oahu, and we did look at them. And they passed all of the criteria. And that's about all I can say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenbrock. Mr. Kovas, and then Roberta. Go ahead, Mr. Kovas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this, I noticed that Commissioner Onaka is on the call. I know he was part of the technical committee. So either Bill or Mr. Hicks or Commissioner Onaka. I agree with Mr. Hicks that it probably should have started at the House district first and move out. And maybe you can either of you two maybe can address my question. I know that there's certain requirements for the House districts on how they are supposed to be laid out. Are those the exact same requirements for both the Senate and then ultimately the congressional districts, or are there other requirements? Because in my mind, if you do the House districts first and they meet the initial requirements, then it's just a matter of putting the Senate districts to meet the two districts per Senate district lines over the top of it, and then of course the congressional lines go over the top of that. So maybe if you can answer that question, I'd appreciate it.
So the question was asked of Mr. Hicks and Commissioner Nonaka. Oh, I think I see you, Mr. Hicks, speaking. There you go.
I'd prefer Mr. Nanaka go first, but if not, I'll go first. Yes, Brett, absolutely. The requirements for the House districts and the Senate districts are the same in both the Constitution and the Hawaii Revised Statutes. They also apply to the congressional districts. The difference is the legislative districts have a different population base. There's the non-permanent resident extraction for the legislative districts, whereas the congressional district just takes the straight census numbers. What I did do when the December 31st extraction numbers came out, What I did do was I determined what the population was using extracted numbers of Congressional District 1 that was already set, and what the extracted numbers were for Congressional District 2. And it turned out that you put 25 House districts with the extracted numbers together. The average population of those 25 versus the average population of the 9 that would have to be the component of Congressional District 2, the population difference was like 12 people. It was 0.04% different. So in this particular case, this year, the moon and the stars aligned, and you could take 25 House districts of average size and string them together. Obviously the urban core, and I would suggest Makapu'u Point would be the logical starting point. And that would be your Congressional District 1. And then the 9 more rural House districts would be the Oahu portion of Congressional District 2. There are other years where you couldn't exactly do it, and you would have to, probably in most years, you'd have to take 1 House district and 1 Senate district, and the Congressional District, which uses census numbers only, might wind up going through. This year, you could actually completely do it. But some years you might have to concede that 1 House and 1 Senate district might have a CD1, CD2 boundary. But the rules for constructing them are all the same. The primary difference is the population base for the Congressional District is census only. And for the state legislative districts, it's extracted. Dylan, over to you.
Mr. Nonaka.
I guess I'll make a general comment. I think, focus in on these, trying to have a perfect constitutional criteria in, someone's mindset is somewhat arbitrary. And I'll illustrate that by the first one being deviation numbers, right? So if we're trying to get to a perfect deviation, you have to do things that would violate other constitutional requirements. And so I don't want to get into a debate over whose plan is more constitutional or meets all the constitutional requirements, because again, I could make a laundry list of things that anyone's plan that's out there, and I've looked at all of the public plans that have come in, make different, violate different criteria. And like, Mr. Colbis, have you looked at the Ewa Beach map? Are you happy with the Ewa Beach map? I know you're from the west side. I mean, it splits Ewa into 3 sections. It puts parts of Ewa with Waipahu. Puts, just does a lot of things that if the people in those communities looked at, like, yes, it does meet deviation requirements. The constitutional requirements are easy to meet because we're practicable, right? So any map that comes in is going to meet. You run into the software and it's gonna, it can meet the constitutional requirements. But if you look a little bit deeper and then start really digging in to different communities, and it was mentioned about Kunia being split into 3 different areas, 3 different districts, and one of the districts is Wahiwa. So does it make sense to connect Wahiwa with Royal Kunia? I mean, a lot of logical people would probably say no, and that violates some constitutional criteria. So, it's just not something I think I can debate or win or change anybody's mind on, because everybody's going to have their own opinion on that. And so to me, you have to use the flexibility that's left in the statute to try and do its best, and not arbitrarily try and get to 0 on deviations or other criteria just to say you did, because it's still constitutional if it's not perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Nonaka. I'm going to go to 2 more raised hands, Roberta and Mike Rompo. Go ahead, Roberta, it's your turn.
Thank you very much. I just have a very quick question of either Mr. Nonaka or Mr. Rosenbrock. In the technical group's work to make revisions to the maps, was there an attempt to determine the viability of using Makapu'u Point as the boundary line for the Senate districts?
Yes.
And could you explain why it was not feasible to do it during this reapportionment cycle?
You end up having districts, like a district that will run, and I think the public, the maps that came in from the public kind of did this when you try, and again, this is it's a cause and effect of if you start from someplace and you move up the North Shore, you can't cross the Ko'olau. So you end up with districts that, like, I think ran from Hauula down into like Kunia, Mililani area, so geographically that's a much larger stretch than the bend around East Oahu. So you create compression that ends up disrupting the entire central part of Oahu, right? And so again, when you're trying to balance, if and we deal with this with every community across the whole state, right? So this isn't unique on Oahu. It's not unique to East Oahu, but your community is the most important community to you, right? I get that. And so if you get what you want at the expense of everybody else, you're okay with that, right? So there's going to be times where you may not be completely happy what happens to your community, but there might be another community that is also equally not as happy, but you both get 50-50 and it works out, and that's the best thing we can do for everybody. And so when you look at the compression that happens in the middle of the island, and there are people, they don't come to our meetings and talk, but there are people that are upset that they're losing a House district in Mililani, right? People liked having three representatives in Mililani. Contrary to some of the testimony, there are people who feel like more representatives in an area is better for that area rather than just having one. And so on the House map, starting from Makapu'u, basically evaporated a House district from Central Oahu, which there are folks feel like that's detrimental to their community. So again, all a matter of opinion. I respect everybody's opinion. But when you do things like that, there's effects later on down the road, and we have to take those things into account.
Thank you. Next question is from Mr. Rumpel.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, a lot of great testimony. Obviously, they've been following this process closely. I think, Commissioner Nanaka is trying to state something that sounds reasonable, with the Constitution being imperfect. However, our objective is always to meet the constitutional requirements first, and then any ulterior variables get added in. As long as the maps were drawn without the political input, and we've heard from testimony from commissioners that they did seek their senators' advice and they did seek their representatives' advice. Well, those are not constitutional requirements, and that's where it starts to deviate. And so the least amount of deviation is always going to be to start at the Constitution and go from there. And the problem with this process has been that it's not that. And so the other issue is not whether or not a House district or two House districts fit cleanly into a Senate district. We know that they do. The issue about one representative going to 3 senators or a senator going to 6 representatives is not a constitutional requirement. That it doesn't meet is that it no longer meets the socioeconomic background of that community, because there's too many variations or deviations from the socioeconomic of one district into 6 different Senate, or into 3 different Senate districts or 6 different House districts. And so the reason to have a Senate district have 2 clean House districts is to maintain the constitutionality of socioeconomic areas. And so every other testimony has been completely valid. I just wanted to add that one point that might have been left out. Thanks very much, Chair, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Rumpel. Do we have any other further questions? I don't see any other hands raised, but I also see the commissioners. Do you have any questions for anyone? Oh, okay. The white background of your, I can't hardly see your hand, so go ahead, Sandy.
Sorry about that, Chair.
No, it's okay.
Sandy Ma with Common Cause Hawaii again. I understand the importance of deviation the courts have held that for legislative redistricting other than congressional redistricting, under 10% is desired. Common Cause's position is, of course, we follow the court decisions. but we should not forget the importance of keeping communities together. And so we should not have any type of redistricting or rules that will split communities of interest, because that has been used in the past to split communities of interest, minority communities specifically, to dilute minority communities. So I don't want, and I want to be perfectly clear, I do not want any artificial reasons or excuses to split communities of interest, whether it's to keep the deviation low or anything like that. So we must keep communities of interest together. And so because we do not want to engage in any gerrymandering or have any excuses to split communities of interest. So that is a paramount concern to Common Cause Hawaii. We have seen that across the mainland, across the continent. And so we have not taken a position on any maps. We have highlighted where communities of interest have been split. We have stepped in when we have said, Waimanalo with its large Native Hawaiian communities, voices have been drowned out. We have talked about Papakolea. And so I just want to be clear that we should not adopt any position specifically where it could be used to split communities of interest. We understand the courts have said 10%, and we abide by that, but let's not use that to split communities of interest. So that is what I'm saying here today. And I didn't even get into prison gerrymandering. It's a little too late unless we want to move the reapportionment deadline, which I think everyone's head will explode. We'll tackle that in another 10 years. But thank you very much for your time and your indulgence. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Miss Ma. I think after Miss Bishop, then we're going to stop taking testimony, if that's all right, unless there's something new that someone wants to bring up. Miss Bishop, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair. This discussion is very interesting, and I'm really grateful that so many people have been part of this reapportionment and redistricting process this year. But to sort of wrap up my sentiments about today's meeting, it just seems appropriate to me that the Oahu Advisory Council recommend the use of the Bill Hicks plans for the Senate districts. They're cleaner, they abide by the state constitution, they keep communities of interest together, and I just hope that this council will support that to get us back on track to what the Oahu Senate districts should be like. And again, I thank the technical committee for putting the Oahu House districts back to where they should be. Thank you very much.
Miss Bishop, Mr. Hicks, if there's something new, then definitely let's have you speak again. Oh, you're on mute.
I'll be brief. I'm not going to argue. You use my Senate plan. What I would argue and suggest is that previously the Oahu Advisory Council's recommendation was Oahu maps be drawn in accordance with Article 4 in its entirety, which will establish Kaina Point and Makapu'u Point as natural boundaries for both House and Senate districts. I think it would be probably acceptable to use the 34 House districts that the technical committee has presented. The next step, though, that I would urge the council to consider, to reiterate the previous recommendation, is Makapu'u and Kaina points as boundaries for the Senate, and to use as a starting point coupling the 34 House districts that the technical committee have created, if they were carefully crafted, using that as a starting point to couple 2 districts to form 1 Senate district and see what you have. And then ultimately, finally, perhaps reconsider the congressional district lines so that they match the new and better 34 districts the technical committee has come up with to, in order to better comply with the requirements. It seems totally practicable. And so I would just suggest that would be a good recommendation for the council to consider, to reiterate the council's standing recommendation. Mahalo.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Can we have discussion? Can we open up discussion for the council members? I think I said commissioners before. My apologies. The council members. Oahu Advisory Council. Yes. If I'm just gonna make some observations from what has been talked about today, since we don't have any discussion from the council members. It sounds like from the testimony that what's really wanted is maybe more alignment with the Senate and the House. And you know, the other thing would be like the anchor points for the Senate map. What I realized today is that it's not easy to do that. And I did go in there prior to this meeting, maybe a few days ago, and it's not as easy as one might think. I grew up in Waianae, so I kind of am looking at the Hicks map, and there are some things that I have questions about, only because it's not as clear to see where the lines are. So what I would say is that we continue to support maybe like the anchor points, or make a comment around, you know, alignment of Senate and House districts as an advisory thing, like what Bill is saying, a little bit more of a consideration to aligning. But I think it really isn't easy. When I went in there to try to look really closely at the communities, it seems like the Leeward district now and Central district has been affected. And I don't know, because, you know, the other neighborhood boards on that side had not responded. And that was my question to Mr. Hicks, is they know their districts the best, they know their borders, they know their communities the best, and we hadn't heard from them. So I appreciate Mr. Hicks being able to, you know, or sharing his plan with everyone, but it's so hard to say. We do have some districts. So I personally would think that maybe giving the technical team or the commission the ability to still, if advocate, that maybe that they can take a look at it. I know time is super tight, but if there was something more along the lines of alignment of House and Senate districts, and, you know, and anyway, that's my discussion for the remainder, for the council members. Are we at that in the agenda? I'm so sorry. I didn't look at the agenda. We're done right after. Okay, so yes, we're fine. Sorry about that.
Chair,
Yes.
this is Alan. Can you hear me okay?
Aloha, Alan. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I wanted to thank all of the testifiers for their hard work, passion, and commitment to the process. It's very complicated and in depth. It takes a lot of things into consideration. So I appreciate everyone's input. I heard a lot of things. I sat in some of the meetings with the Reenforcement Committee, and I heard some, and I take some key points out of it. You know, this process is imperfect. It's really complicated. You have to take a lot of factors involved in this. You move one line, there's a domino effect, and it impacts someone else. And no one is ultimately happy with whatever you do. And so in this whole process of trying to take public input and comments and having to make the hard decision, it's, I give the committee and the technical committee a lot of credit, because they are under a lot of scrutiny at this point. And with that said, the technical committee, I know they're looking at all kinds of different aspects of this. And what I'm hearing is they did make adjustments that would satisfy some of the concerns that were raised, you know, in Manoa and things like that. And I don't want to bring out one instance because that adjustment could upset someone else, you know what I mean? That one little movement. So with that all said, for me, I want to support the technical committee because they're involved in all of that aspects. You know, for us to put the flag in the pole and say, you know, 1 point is the best way to go, it would be a disservice because I think if we do that, then someone else is going to be unhappy. So I want to support the technical committee's recommendation because I'm hearing that they did make some adjustments, and some of their adjustments made some people unhappy at the same time. So I'll just stop at that, and I look forward to other people's comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alan. Do we have any other council members or that would like to discuss this item? I would think that we would do the same thing that we did last time, is try to get a summary of what the testimony was about, discussion was about, and then write a report, a summary report. And then if we wanted to make a recommendation, then we would. The council has heard kind of like my opinions and Alan's. Alan, could I ask a clarifying question of you? With what I'm saying, with what I said in regards to, you know, taking a look at aligning the Senate and House maps more carefully, is that something that you would be of support of, or are you saying that supporting the technical committee would be leaving the maps the way they are?
So just to clarify, I just feel that the technical committee is trying its best to align the Senate with the House and the House with the Senate. And I'm only looking at it from afar. And so I think they're already trying to do that.
Okay.
Whether it's perfect or not, whether there could be adjustments or not, you know, maybe. So that's where I'm coming from. I don't necessarily oppose what you're saying. I just feel that they're trying to do that already. And, you know, I want to try to see that they work through the process and they're hearing the same things as what we've heard today, I'm sure. I don't think they've heard anything new in comparison. So, you know, I think having them the ability to work the system and work their numbers is already being addressed.
Okay. Our other two council members, do you guys have any thoughts about that so that we can try to get some kind of either recommendation or not in our report?
I agree with what has been said, and I applaud all the work that's been done by the technical committee. I think the biggest thing I heard was the split of Papakulea. I guess keeping kind of the boundaries where they are and realizing that just shifting to maybe if just that little portion could be looked at, not necessarily we take a stance that it needs to be put together, but if somehow that community could be made whole again without causing huge ripples everywhere. I don't know. But I think that the house maps and everything look so much better. The maps in general look so much better than the last time we looked at them. And a lot of good work has been done to make that happen. So I really am very thankful for that. But I did through the testimonies and yesterday's meeting too, Papakulea came up several times.
Okay, I think I'm trying to pull something, trying to picture a report from those who've spoken so far. Commissioner Kennedy, I am trying to make a decision on whether or not to just have the council members speak because we're at a point of writing up the report. or else I would open it up for discussion with the commissioners and the rest of the folks online. I really do want to hear from you. But I'm also a little concerned that we're going to open up more discussion when we're
Yeah,
trying.
it's not about discussion. I just wanted to help you accumulate this. I think our responsibility as a committee and excuse me, Mr. Colbus, my responsibility as the liaison for this committee is to accumulate the information from the community and then pass all of it forward. I'm not sure you guys, it's great that you all have opinions, which you should put in the report, but I believe it's a summary of the community's presentations to you, and then we pass it forward to the commission to take over. So I don't know that you need to vote or everybody needs to agree. I think it's just accumulation. So I just wanted to clarify that for you.
Yes, Commissioner, that's what we did something the last time that was favorable to the testimony. This time I'm trying to do the same thing and align with what we did the last time, which is summarizing the testimony and then also giving a recommendation from the council. Okay. So I'm going to honor that this time. And so we could always do a summary of all the testimony. And I'm trying to figure out now if the council wants to put forth a recommendation. Thank you. Ginger, did you have something that you would want to say regarding any possibility of a recommendation?
Well, being that I'm new to the committee and I haven't seen that much from prior meetings, I have spoken to some people in my community who have saw the recent maps, and speaking for my community only, they like what they've seen for the final drawings of the maps. However, as far as getting the maps with the Senate and the House, I'm not sure how easy that would be considering the populations in the different areas. So, I appreciate the hard work that everybody's putting forth on this. That's it.
Okay. This is what my recommendation is going to be, being that we're not completely and wholly on the same sheet as we were the last time. Then I think we should do the summary and just maybe highlight that there are members who believe that the technical committee has done their best, and maybe that we all appreciated the work that went into the map and understand that the time is there's a time crunch, or something like that. I happen to be more aligned with the just the trying to align, the Senate and the House a little bit more. The only thing is I do realize that takes like a whole nother bunch of time, and the time crunch is really tight right now. So who was it that helped us with the report? Is that possible to get someone to help us with the report? Was that Lori?
Which report?
The council's report the last time we met.
The one that Mike Rompel did?
Yeah, but I thought someone helped him write it up. No?
He's here. Mike, can you answer that?
Well, this is Lori, first of all.
Okay, Laura.
And yes, Mr. Rompel was actually the one who drafted it.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I mean, I did, provide assistance where asked for, but what we did is we took a recess, take some time so that he could draft something. And then I think we tried to post the draft in the chat function. And then he also read it aloud so that everyone, the public and all the council members could hear the proposed report before it was voted upon.
Okay. And is that normally how it's done, or can we just make points to what we want to see on the report and then vote on it?
Well, I think it helps when you have everyone who's considering it can see something in writing. But definitely if I think to your point, if you want a formal report from this body as a whole, there would need to be a motion and an action taken versus individual council members kind of representing their own positions.
Correct. Okay. So I guess because this is a issue that probably needs a report that is written, I'm wondering if we could go ahead and take a break and we'll try to put something together. How did you guys do it the last time, Mike? Oh, we just came back and he read it and we looked at and the rest of the committee members just agreed with what he wrote. Okay.
Yeah, as chair, you could just declare a recess for now. We're not adjourning, just a recess, and then take the time that you need and then come back.
I should have tagged someone else on this. No, I'm okay. All right, let's take a recess and let's come back in, I don't know what, it's 12:32. So maybe, yeah, why don't we go ahead and do like 20 minutes maybe?
Okay, and then chair, what I can do is I can email you so you have my contact information.
Okay, that'd be great.
So I mean, did one of the committees recessed and came back another day? I mean, are you gonna have enough time to accumulate all of this information in 20 minutes? I mean, I think, Laura, you can forgive me, but can you share, can they recess and come back we don't have to wait 6 days, but it can be an additional like Monday or something?
You can continue this meeting as long as you say which date and time you're going to be continuing it to. But just for your reference, the way that this council handled it the last time was, I think they referenced, because this meeting is being recorded, they referenced the meeting video so that the commissioners could come back and see the video in case they wanted to see all the public comment. And any written comment can also be collated by staff and forwarded to the commissioners.
Okay. What's happening on the other side of like the commission schedule? Right now, there's nothing. This is it. This is the final. They don't have any plans to meet again, right? Or are there plans to meet again?
I think there is a plan to have a meeting next week. I need to double check the agenda, but I think there's a meeting on the 20th and 21st and 22nd for public meetings. I mean, there might be other items on the agenda, but those meetings are, the primary objective is to take additional public comment. But I do think there is a standing agenda item on their agenda for reports by advisory councils.
Okay, I'm wondering if we can just go ahead and adjourn and come back maybe on Tuesday for a short bit. We'll have something to review and vote on in regards to a report. And yeah, and I'm wondering if the council members would be okay with that.
Alrighty, just to clarify, you would need to continue the meeting. You cannot adjourn it.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
You're right.
And not
continue the meeting on Tuesday. Is that possible for the council members?
What time were you thinking?
I was thinking maybe 11:30.
I can't meet until either before 11 or between 12 and 3.
Okay. Yeah, between 12 and 3 works for me as well. Alan and Ginger, how does that work for you?
Between 12 and 3 works better for me.
Okay. Alan, what about you?
I'll make myself available, Chair.
Okay, perfect. Let's do 12:30.
Okay.
We'll do 12:30, and I expect it to be a short one. And then I'll just draft something that reflects what we all said.
Thank you.
Okay.
The chair, sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to clarify so we're all on the same page. This meeting will be continued to Tuesday, January 18th at 12:30 p.m. And can reapportionment staff confirm if the same Zoom link can be used, please?
I believe so.
Okay, Carolyn?
Yes.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure. Okay, and then you're gonna post a notice?
Yes, I will.
Okay, so staff will post a notice about the meeting being continued so that the public can also be aware in case they weren't able to see this meeting.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you, council members. Thank you, commissioners, for being on the call, the Zoom today, and for all of the testifiers who participated. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Aloha.